Okay. So now we are recording. I don't know, but I have also the transcription of what we are doing, what we are saying, but it is good. Okay. So can you see my screen? The presentation of my screen? Okay.
Yes, you can see.
Okay. So in this brief presentation, I would like to show you some finding at the beginning and how can we start the activity and to build together the strategies to go ahead in the project. So the WG1 group, the working group 1, is addressed on the physiological variables and sensing technologies for detecting the plant water status. There is a previous debate among some of us regarding what is better, the water status or the plant water status or plant functionality. So it is interesting also to see these differences if there are any. So today we'll describe a little bit the project, the WG1 activities, strategies, and how can we can actively participate at the activity of the WG1 tasks. So the task 1 of the WG is addressed at identifying for each tree species the physiological variables best suited to monitor water status. So the idea is to increase the knowledge about the physiological and productive response of the plant, of the tree crops under different water conditions, just taking advantage by literature, but above all by a database, so by our data maybe. So the idea was to build up a database, a common database, selecting which are the physiological variables that can be potentially implemented, so potentially measured with some sensors. At the end of this task, the idea, and this is very ambitious idea, is to produce a database reporting for each study crop the main physiological variables responding to the growth stress and the reciprocal relations between among these variables. And of course, a review paper on how different fruit tree crops behaves in response to the drought stress. This deliverable is at month 18, so it seems too far, but it is not so far. So we must also consider this. In the second task, so after identify the variables, the second task is in charge to detect and to survey, to make a scouting for existing market solution of sensors, classifying them according to the cost, the accuracy, and some other categories that we can choose together. And at the end, make a ranking about the most promising tool that we can be used for the proximal determination and detection of plant status. The task 3 is linked on the remote sensing tools. So in addition to the proximal, we want to try to expand this information also using remote sensing tools in order to increase the scale and the spatial resolution of the information. And in the task 4, the idea is to integrate the proximal with the remote sensors information. Here you see also a special issue about the sensors, remotes and proximal sensors. And at the end, the task 5 is addressed on the building up a protocol that takes together the information and how to act. This is a little bit overlapping the decision support system WG. So this activity is let me say, could be a common activity between the two working groups. And so here you see just the Gantt chart about the work we are doing, we will do during the project. So the first task to start is the task 1, this one, and parallelly there is the starting of the task on the proximal sensors, remote sensing, scouting, and after the integration and protocol. I hope it is clear the frame of this WG, but if you have any doubt, please just stop me and I can try to explain better. I go ahead. And so the first deliverable, for example, is on a database reporting for each study, each crop, the main physiological variables responding to draw stress. So the first challenging task at this point is to build a uniform data set, because I know we have tons of data, but in each lab, the data are organized in a particular way, and also the variable used are different each other. So if we want to make a common data set to be analyzed together, so having a big amount of data to analyze together and to see if there are some similarities or something different, or if some species behaves in different way, for example, isohydric versus anisohydric. This is just an example. The first step also to choose the good sensor and to choose even both remote or proximal. The first step, I think, is to build a uniform data set. To make this, and so this data set can be used for identifying the physiological variables, plant-based sensors, and remote sensing tools. Myself with other colleagues in charge of some tasks thought about to realize a survey questionnaire we want to provide you to see what are the kind of data we are in our available for this objective. And so in this survey questionnaire, we will have some sections about the water status definition and detection. So which are the variables that we commonly use to detect the water status, to detect the tree functionality, and the difference. I don't know if there is a real difference, but the difference between the water status and the tree functionality is linked to the, let me say, the plant performance. So net photosynthesis give us an information about the potential productivity of the plant. Sometimes, or for some species, it can be linked to the water potential, but for other species can be not linked in the same way. So this is the reason because we divided the water status from the tree functionality. But you will see some variables that fall in the two groups, the pedoclimate variables and some other predicting variables that maybe are used in some groups and not in other, but it is important as information. These categorized by time range, speeds, climate and location, and also information on the instruments used to measure it. The possible strategy for starting the working group 1 activities could be, but it is just a suggestion, but your suggestions, your comments are more than welcome, is to make this survey questionnaire just to see the degree of similarity of our dataset and how to harmonize them. The second step is, okay, now we can prepare a form to collect data, and so to prepare to have a data set, a database with data collection based on the results of the survey questionnaire, and then the elaboration of this data. So we need data, but we need also people, all of us, that are keen to analyze this data together to make different analyses. And for now, I would like to show you the questionnaire, the survey questionnaire, just to comment you how it is built. But if you have any question at the moment, please let me know. And me and also Joaquin, I will present you also Joaquin. I introduce you Joaquin as co-leader in a while. I don't see if it is connected or not. Joaquin, are you connected?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And also Antonio Diaz, that will lead the task 1.2. But before to present the group, to ask for other availability, if you have any question, please, this is the time to make some questions, just on this first part, if you have. Okay. Back in, rise at the end.
Hello for everyone. Thank you, Pasquale, for this good presentation. I am Bekim Gashi from Pristina University from Kosovo. For me, it's very interesting to participate in this group because during I have very good experience in water stress in some endemic and rare plants, which is polykilohydric plants. And I have a new machine or instrument to do that analysis. I have very good experience also in water status of plants, especially in relative water content and other things about photosynthesis. And I have a new instrument from PP System, the newest one from USA, if you know, CIRAS, to measure the photosynthesis, all photosynthesis parameters. And I can do that analysis in our plants here in Kosovo, if you are agree, or if you are that help from our part, because the gas exchange or other water status plant we can do with that instruments, it's the best one in the world, as you or many from you can know. And I think it's a very good opportunity for us to do something together. But for this moment, I don't know what we can do or what we can contribute in this working group. I am always ready to help, to work with you, and always for me it's a pleasure to work with European partners or other partners from around the world. Thank you very much again. I'm ready to contribute in everything what you need.
Thank you very much, Bekim. So I think your contribution is more than welcome. Also, making fresh data by your trial if you do something in these years, but at the same time, now it is very important to collect data already in our labs and help us to analyze them and to see which is the most useful variable to measure. Because sometimes the problem is that we have a very good variable, let me say photosynthesis is very good variable, but sometimes we don't have sensors able to measure it in a quick way, in a cheap way, but we have just infrared gas analyzer. So it is a good chance to collect together data and to see how can we derive, estimate, or how can we measure that variable if that is the best variable to measure. So thank you very much. Brunella and after Ecomatic.
Maybe Ecomatic was first, but I have just a very general comment, just to be everybody on the same line. Maybe some of you don't have much experience with cost actions, and like I didn't have. But basically, cost actions work on existing data. We don't need new data, or at least we have 4 years. And during these 4 years, if new data are arising, then we can share them. But what we are asked to is to work on existing data. So the idea of this working group is understand and discuss how we can collect and then analyze and move forward from what everybody has already available in our desks, basically, in our drawers. So that's just to be everybody on the same line. Sorry for Ecomatic.
All fine, Brunella. Everybody hear me? Yeah, okay.
Far, but yes.
Far, okay. I will speak a bit louder then. Thank you first for the invitation. I'm glad to be here. Michael Geusser, my name, and I did a lot of stress physiology, not on fruit trees, but mainly on forest trees. But I think in general, this is similar. And now to this topic, the degree of similarity between our data sets. I just want to add one dimension. This is duration, so time, because very often we have a time series of continuous or non-continuous measurements, and then we have maybe some thresholds or we have some extreme values. But one very important dimension is the product of the intensity and the duration. And I have seen very few data sets which have the possibility to calculate a dose, a stress dose, because a chronic stress can be way different from a very severe stress. So this is physiologically spoken a complete different picture. And I would love to see if in this questionnaire, if we would have this dimension asked, then we could see if we have more data sets that can be used to calculate also a dose, or at least to target this additional dimension. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, we accounted for this. We'll see together the questionnaire, and so if there are something to add, if you want, we can do it. So it is possible. And also, I'm very interested to the integral of stress, so intensity for the time range, if we have enough data to do this. Any other? Sorry, I'm late, but I just received. Okay. Any other questions or suggestion? Okay, so yes, Estefania Serral, Asensio.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the presentation. First of all, I just wanted to ask, so we are going to gather these data sets. I guess, obviously, we are going to collect a lot of metadata about these data sets. I was wondering regarding, for instance, the frequency of the data collection, if we are going to also capture that information in the survey, if we are also going to capture like maybe problems that they had with the sensors as well to collect the data, because I think it's also important, right? Not only like how good the parameter is indicating a stress, but also how easy it is to capture it or not, as you were also indicating before. So the failing of the sensors may be also relevant. And as well, like kind of metadata about these sensors, or where they were located, which depth or how far from the dripper or from the stem of the tree, like all these aspects. Are we going to also ask about these things?
I think it is better to show you the questionnaire and after, because okay. So I try to. Okay, can you see the screen here?
Yeah.
Okay, so you will receive this questionnaire. So this is a starting point helping us to form a common database describing the tree water status and to have the degree of affinity and similarity of our database. So surname, name, affiliation, and so on. Going ahead, fruit tree species. This is just an example. I just filled some here, so some part of the questionnaire. The cultivar, it is not mandatory, but if you have this information, it could be important. The location, also the coordinates, it is a mandatory information, because in this way we can map all the virtual fields, not so virtual, we are testing, and the part of the world. And so the first section is dedicated to the variables used to assess the tree water status. Okay, so here we tried to list a series of variables, are not all the variables. So here you see also other variables. And so stem water potential, leaf water potential, relative water content, actual potential transpiration ratio, transpiration, stem diameter variation, stomatal conductance, leaf turgor, and other variable if you have. And here you can select, for example, the time range, if it is continuous, hourly, pre-dawn, midday, some hour of the day. For example, I measured photosynthesis in the morning, in midday, and in the afternoon. I don't have continuous measure, but I have measure of 3 different time of the day, for example. There are several case studies or case we are facing with when we measure something in our field. Average of a certain time range, or for example, answering to ecomatic daily integral, or an integral of a part of the day. So we can choose the time range we are using in our data set, sorry. But this list, of course, is not so, it is not exhaustive, so maybe we forget some variables. And so here you can just add the variable you are measuring, link it to the water status, and also the time range. So, for example, I don't know, fruit growth and continuous. Okay. I see some hands raised. Ricardo.
Yes. Just Pasquale, just one thing I do not understand, probably just me. What about a series of data taken only once per day for the long number of days? So which one would be the category here as if you go up a little bit?
Okay, so in theory, you must fill one questionnaire per each data set. But if you have a time series, for example, you have the same measure in different days or during different physiological stages, we must take into account this. You can just consider that as a unique data set, and we can add a question about this time series. So it is a good point we can implement in the questionnaire. I'm noting it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm not. Please, Buran.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you for the good presentation, Pasquale. And I would like to say the rootstock options. Could we add the questionnaire because the interaction of the species and the rootstocks is very important for the drought resistance. What kind of rootstocks, for example, we will use? I think this is important factors for the resistancy.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe we can add some question about the rootstock, the cultivar and rootstock.
Interaction is important. I think.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Then I try to go ahead. And so another section, Andrew, sorry.
Yeah, so in this direction, since we have already specified in the application the fruit species on which we are going to work on. Although during the committee meeting, it was agreed that maybe we could add some. So should we limit ourselves to the species so that we have a drop list with indicated species, or do we open that to others? Because then it will have a problem to manage that information.
This is a so how to say, in my dream book, I would not limit the species. So, but I don't know, Brunella, shall we limit on the species, or shall we get the door open?
So I think it's a very good point. So thank you, Andrew, for raising this point. Probably many of us will have to fill in many of these questionnaires, because I'm sure that we all have several data sets about different trials. Okay, so maybe we have, or each of us will have to make selection of the databases he wants to share, also deciding which ones he or she wants to share, of course, with the project. So I would say that if you are more focused, of course, if you work mostly on grape, olive, peach, pear, apple, and kiwi fruit, which are the 6 species that are the target of the project, I would say focus on those, because on those we have to, let's say, we have to deliver. Okay, so we need data for sure on those. But for example, if your background is just on cherry, so if you don't have any data on those species, then it's okay to upload a database also on cherry. I mean, we don't want to exclude these species. Or if you have the effort to upload all the, let's say, response to the database to the questionnaire for all your database in the target species, and then you also want to share maybe cherry or other crops you think are important in your environment, then why not do it? So I would say, okay, as far as it's possible for you. I mean, if you have like 10, let's say, trials to share on the target crop, focus on those. If you have other crops, then it's okay also to add other crops. As Pasquale said, the optimal would be to focus on everything, but we cannot do that. So
yes, I was mainly referring in terms of project management, not as like individual works, etc. So if we will accept many more species, then the size of the database and all the rest of it will have difficulties to manage to provide the deliverables in time, etc. So we can use, as Pasquale was saying, we can use that extra information for other, let's say, other stuff, other projects, other types of activities. But in terms of project management, in terms of providing the deliverables in time, do we limit ourselves to the species, 6 species in the project or not? So not as individual, but as how to manage, let's say, the deliverables in time.
Well, this survey is not really getting the databases yet. This is just to know what's available. So yeah. I think in general, yeah, it's good to know whether there are databases available on Cherry too. So in principle, I mean, then we decide which databases can be useful and which databases to ask. Also based on the need to make them homogeneous, you know. So
yes, I think this survey will allow us to have a picture of what we have available. For instance, if we have very few information about, let me say, grapevine, I know that it is not true, but a lot of information about cherries. So it's a pity to exclude cherries in this case. So in this survey, the first things I think is to get a picture about what we have at our disposal, because after that we can move on in collecting data. And if the species are too many, then we must, as a core group, I don't know, we must make a choice just to say, okay, we must restrict the number of species. But if it is just another 2 more, I think we can stay. It will depend at the moment. This is my point. I don't know if it is correct or not, but this is my view.
I think it's just a matter of knowing what's available, and then the next step will be the one with the real work, so collecting the databases. But for the next step, we'll you know, focus on specific databases. So we will, for sure, we will start from the species that we have in the objectives of the project.
Okay. Okay, go Ugo. I don't see the
Anna and Francesca.
Yeah. Okay. Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm very glad to be here. I'm from the Institute of Bioeconomy, National Council of Research in Italy. And I wanted actually to propose just now maybe a short survey among us about which are the fruit species that we probably that we would like, I mean, to share in terms of database. And if you want, I mean, I have created a link for an online survey that we can use just to have an idea on which species we are actually working, if you would like. You have just a minute to...
we have already in the survey in the first field to fill is the species, and so compiling these we can have already information about the species. We can share also that other link, but I'm afraid that is make two times the same exercise.
No, sure. I want to just propose something that was very quick and easy to do right now, just to have a general idea about our experiences, let's say, on the species. But it's fine. Never mind.
Okay, if we want, yes. No. It is not.
But
good idea.
Sorry, but the project states already which are the 6 species that we have to focus and deliverable. So the others could be extra, and as Pasquale was saying, we can add 1 or 2. But it's not that we are rediscussing or redeciding again which one to focus now. So we already have a list in the project proposal.
Yes, we must stay on that, and we can increase the number. I think it is difficult to substitute in terms of project requirement, but I think that the survey will give us a rough information about what we have in our desk on our desks, ready to be shared. Okay. I see several questions in the chat. We will just respond for dataset generated from field, or could we include data for greenhouse experiment? I think we can include data from greenhouse experiment. The important thing is that they will be on fruit tree species, also in the greenhouse, so no problem about that. Is continuous really sub-orally? I think we can in the remarks going ahead with the questionnaire, we have a windows where we can describe the experiment, and so in this field you can just explain also the time range. So if it is not the it is a particular case, then you can just write them. But we will arrange the questionnaire accordingly, looking at your suggestion. So another question I have to leave. No, it is not a question. Where are we only focused on plant and physical attributes? What do you mean physical attributes? So do you mean if you want to add also some biochemistry variable? Please explain better, please. Wang. Okay, but you can write, no worries. So the second section is about the variables, for example, used to assess the tree functionality. So something that is linked to the water status, but sometimes is not properly the water status. And so here again, we listed some variable. The list is not exhaustive, so net photosynthesis, stomatal conductance, shoot growth, fruit growth, vegetative growth, trunk shrinkage, yield prevision, subflux, transpiration, or other variables. And also in this case, for other variables, please specify the variable and also the time range. Here, in this this question is linked to some, let me say, indirect variables that we used to measure to have an idea about the plant status. So which variable are you using to assess indirectly the tree water status of functionality? So just to make a personal case, I am used to, for example, use the chlorophyll fluorescence. So chlorophyll fluorescence indirectly give you an information about the electron exiting from the PS2 and then from the photosynthesis. But it is an, let me say, an indirect measure. But I think this group of measures, this group of variables like fluorescence, leaf temperature, the acoustic signal. Sorry, Kati, if I explained it is a acoustic signal of the within the xylem, but all these variables are very important because we maybe have a good sensor to measure this, and collecting this data we can see if there are some relations. So please also in this case add the variable and also the time range. Do you also monitor pedoclimate variables? So if you have data about pedoclimate, and so again here some variable, incident radiation, temperature, relative humidity, and so on, soil water content and soil temperature, pedoclimatic variable, so extra variable not included in this list. Remarks. So in this field, please describe briefly the experiment, so the treatment, the experimental design, the amount of water applied in different treatment, and also, Riccardo, this can be the place where you can write about the time range. I measured this in 3 days or at 3 phenological stage of my plant. Maybe can be this the place, or we can prepare a dedicated question about this point. Yes, Riccardo.
Yes, just probably I didn't really say it correctly. The question was which one of those that you had in the table do I have to mark if I have only a single measurement per day for a number of days. So I didn't mean to ask for how long I took the data, but it's only one measurement per day, which didn't seem to be in the table. And probably I didn't see it. I don't know.
So if I understood well, for example, in the case of, let me say, stomatal conductance, if you have just a daily measure, we can add here another time range daily, not integral, but daily, so average of 1 day. Or if you have only measure or just 3 times, okay, you can do it.
Okay, that was the real question. Okay, thank you.
What about data obtained by remote sensing? Yes, also, so Jill, for specific measure of water potential photosynthesis, possible to add a column to indicate the frequency of measuring, daily, weekly. So daily, you want me to add daily in the column, I suppose. Okay. What about data obtained by remote sensing? Okay, so data we'll see now in the next section to increase specific topic for data gathering from image sensor and which type of. Okay. Maybe there is some. Excuse me. Yes, this is the complete one. Okay. So again, add the pedoclimate variable if you have measured some of pedoclimate. And then we have another section, so the section number 5, sensors and instruments. So in this section, you are asked to add some information about the sensors and instruments used to detect 3 water status variables. So you find a not exhaustive list, but you can also add some other variables. So in this case, for example, there is a list of some common proximal sensors used. So microtensiometer, psychrometer, set flow gauges, and so on. Infrared gas analyzer. This is red, sorry. Okay, porometer, and so on. And you can also add other. Okay, and the same when you add, please add sensor instrument not included in the list. So you can just type the sensor you are using. And the same for the remote instruments. So thermal imagery, you have some vegetative indices, but are not all. So if you have some other indices to use, please just mail me and I can add in the survey. And yes, this is the section about the explanation of your experiment we were talking about before. So just explain the experiment because it can be useful for us to know. Do you check the yield as a function of treatment? So if there are some difference in terms of water supply about the yield, as well as the quality and the vegetative growth. There's soil structure in the list. Soil structure in the list is not accounted, but we can do if we think it is important. I collect the information about the chart, but please, you have my email address. So if you have some suggestion, just mail me and I try to fix the questionnaire accordingly. So even people that have written the suggestion on the chat, please write me an email in order to have clear what you are asking. Okay. Before releasing the questionnaire, it may be good to share it just how to improve it. Yes, yes. It's much easier. Sharing in a Google Doc. Okay, okay. Perfect. So good suggestion. We can just share the survey.
Yeah, indeed, this is the purpose of this meeting, basically. Before releasing any survey, we would like to be sure that, we would like to share with you
it works
whether
or not.
it is good or not, if it is complete and what you think. So it's the good approach, I think. Thanks for all these inputs that you are giving.
Yes, I think the challenge to have a so big data set is very high, is very ambitious, and I hope we succeed in this, but it will be great to have this big data set to analyze together, to share. So do you have any other Plakova, Lenka, please?
Hello, thank you for drafting the questionnaire. I think as was already touched before, I think it would be really good to have a dedicated column there for the specification of the duration of the measurements in terms of what period was monitored. For instance, typically you measure, I don't know, leaf water potential seasonally or during a stress period diurnally over a few days. And I think this variation should be acknowledged by the data set. So I think it's important to have this information in advance before compiling the data together.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Henry and Ecomatic. Now Ecomatic first, because Ecomatic, please.
Hi, thank you. One parameter which would be very easy to survey is the age of the plants, right? Because ontogenetically it could be a difference.
Okay. I'm thinking about the variability of the age. So maybe we can categorize, if you are agree, as juvenile state, mature, and senescent. Because otherwise I have plants 7 years old, you 8 years old, and so it becomes difficult. So maybe making 3 categories: juvenile, so without fruit or with few fruits, mature, so at the full of career, and at the end of the career can be.
This categories could be done now and just asking the survey, but also afterwards. So maybe it would be good to have the age, and then analyzing the data set, we could still form categories.
Yes, but having this information before allow us to prepare a common, let me say, Excel file with all the categories, and so you can fill exactly the category. So this is a good point, because in this way we can harmonize, for example, the data set, and maybe we can see if there is some, how to say, evolution of a certain behavior changing the age of my orchard. Can be very interesting, I think. Henry?
Could we go back a little bit to the treatments to understand better if we have, let's say, Okay. Do you think it would be appropriate to put here some typical category for most of the studies, like let's say deficit irrigation, or so that maybe will help to classify better, let's say, the type of treatments, let's say, or the type of or what is aimed for. So if we put like 5-6 categories, that I think that would be good also for the database, then to have a column for this kind of categories or treatments. And then you can search also within the database with this type of categories. Deficit irrigation, partial root drying, stomata behavior, this type of categories.
Yes.
And since I got the to not take again, did we put anywhere that if the data are published or not, and then to provide the reference? Published, reference, non-published. That will also be needed for the database for sure.
Yes, they make sense. Age, year of planting is more information that can. Okay. Okay, thank you very much for all the suggestions, because the questionnaire become from one side it becomes more complex, but as Brunella was telling me, on the other side it becomes easier to analyze because everything is in a category. So okay, I'm very happy for all your suggestions. I'm just looking at some. I agree, it would be good to indicate at least in general the crop level, especially young non-cropping versus mature cropping trees of vine. Yes. We were telling this. What about canopy? Okay, so we can remain that I wait for your suggestions just by email. I will check the chat, but please also reinforce the information. Just mailing me this your suggestion. It is important. And before to deliver the official survey, I will share again the draft to arrange for some other revisions and so on. So, Jose Luis Torres.
Hi, nice to see you. Just a short comment about the providing categories to different traits, because by my experts say that when you provide some categories without any value behind, that makes more complex the analysis of the data afterwards. Because, for example, if you decide, if you put in your category like, okay, control, deficit irrigation, and something similar, if you don't say that your deficit irrigation is 70% or 80% or 50% of your control, then you will not be able to evaluate, for example, the intensity of the stress at which your plant had been exposed. So when trying to define some categories, when possible, it's the same for the age. You can define some categories to make some easier analysis, but if everybody can provide some values behind them, it's going to be much better, because then you can make much more like a complete or deeper analysis. This is the first thing. And the second thing is that, Pasquale, you mentioned that the idea, once we will have the database built, the idea is use some models to see how, to put all these traits as an input and evaluate the different outputs in production, the effect in production, growth, etc. Something important now, I think, is to decide which will be the model we will use in order to identify now the inputs that those models require, just to avoid a surprise when you once we have the database built and we will go to the models, if there is some key traits that are missing, probably that could be a problem. So it's going to be, I think it is also important to take a look at the models that we will use now before starting the construction of the database. And the last thing is that, I don't know if you already checked, there is many databases already with physiological data, physiological and anatomical data, mostly for forestry species, but not only. Like, for example, the TRY plant trait database. And I'm pretty sure if we take a look at those databases, we can extract quite a lot of data. So that's something also that we need to keep in mind, not only trying to collect data from us, but also to take a look at the data that are already compiled in this kind of databases. Just that.
Thank you, Torres. About the model, this is a point of relation and with the WG2 that is linked to the model. But I think at the moment, I think the first step again is to have a common number of variables that we use to measure together and to see the variability of these as a function of the water status. So I agree with you, and I think we must connect our work with the WG2 at a certain point, maybe also sharing the data set with the WG2 people to extract some model. This is just my idea at that moment. I would like to discuss with the core group, but okay. And also for the data set already present, please, just if you have a more precise references, please just mail us in order to take a look, or also to use the data if they are available to be used.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much. Drew?
Yeah, thanks, Torres, for the very interesting, but the very good inputs. I agree. I just wanted to add that, yes, it is true that basically our selected parameter need to fit into the model, but we probably this working group has also the other potential. So this is our goal, of course, our main goal within the cost action, but with this idea of creating a joint database that merge all kind of physiological data, we might also have other potentials. Okay, so maybe in the future we can also exploit it for common publications, and looking also at other general responses to drought stress. So it's good, of course, to identify the good parameters that are useful for the models, but without forgetting that we have really a very big potential putting together this database. So yeah, I fully agree with you, but of course it's good to not forget the rest. Yeah, that was my point.
Yes, just I want to add to Brunella's comment that we must also consider that another key point of this working group is also to select the sensors to measure this variable. So this is the first step, and this database can be used for modeling, of course, not by our group, but maybe from another group, but also to select correctly the sensor already present in the market, or also to define what can be the bottleneck that prevent use of that sensors, and how can we overtake these problems, if any. Kati, sorry if I intervened before. Kati?
No, no worries. Yeah, well, I just want to complete what Brunella said. I also believe that this working group has kind of some goals that can be reached in the working group itself, and then with the sensors, indeed, we can also use them in the models, but by collecting the data and in a database. Because we are also thinking in the modeling working group on, for example, not only mechanistic modeling, but also AI or data-driven models. And then, yeah, you can also find relationships between those by collecting them in this working group. So I think we should think within the strengths of the measurements and the sensors within the working group, and then also part of it can then move on in working group 2, working group 3, working group 4. So it will be a kind of an reversed L, let's say, to work at. So it's definitely useful to do that in this way. Okay, thank you.
Okay, please, Ecomatic.
One question: will there be an additional survey about the sensors then, So ease of use, price, I don't know what laborers, measurements. Will there be a second questionnaire? Because I think if the outcome of the first one, for example, or is that this or that parameter is very good to have and tells us a lot or is very decisive, but it is very hard to measure or very expensive, then this will reduce the usability. So will there be another questionnaire tackling this question, or should it be added here? I don't know.
So I think, but I ask also to Joaquin and to Antonio that are leading the task 2 on the proximal and task 3 on the remote sensors. But I think that maybe we can have another questionnaire, or we can just check on the literature if there are some pros and cons for the sensor we are getting to use. Otherwise, this questionnaire will become very, very boring, a lot of information. And at the moment, I think we must just make a picture of what we have. And after, but it is my opinion. So now the floor for Joaquin or Antonio, you can.
Yeah, so I agree. I mean, I think that we said several times, this questionnaire, the survey now is just to have a general picture of everything. Then you will see that there are different tasks, and inside each task we'll have to work. Probably in the one that is more related with the sensors, will work, the people that is involved in this, with another questionnaire, and we will ask their the advantages, disadvantages of the sensor, price, and so on. And also for the task related with remote sensing, we'll work on this. I mean, we have months now to work more detail with the other subjects. But this is just a general overview of everything.
Antonio?
Yeah. I was just to say exactly the same that Joaquin is just that each task will have in our survey, because if not, it will be too long. It will focus on the goals of each of the tasks.
Patty?
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether we should not check then the cost rules, because if we talk about pricing, and yeah, that sounds to me quite commercial, while I think we are I'm just wondering whether that fits the topic. You can have advantages and disadvantages, but if you are aiming at listing sensors based on pricing, and given that prices evolve, if you compare price now against the price last year, then I should be, we should check whether that is allowed within the cost and European rules. But I don't know, just something that comes to my mind to be a bit careful on that.
Okay, this is a point that we will check, but different calls of in the European Union, I mean, like the PRIMA project, there is a specific call for using low-cost sensor, for instance. So this is a topic which is very sensitive for them, because it is one of the main bottleneck of troubles to use the technology and the situation in the field in smart agriculture. The cost of the equipment and the cost of implementation of the equipment is one of the main things that avoid the farmers to get into, especially the small farmers. So I mean, we should check if we can talk about prices and everything, but I think it's appropriate, because at the end, the economical aspect of the implementation of all this is very important. So, and of course, the only solution is just to explain very well that the investment in equipment, even it is more expensive, but it's more robust and more profitable at the end, it is worthy. So this is the main.
Yeah, but I like that approach that you indeed do, like the economical analysis of not only the sensor, but if you have to have a working group, what is it, 3, 4 in the decision support system, it has to be a working, not only the sensor, but it has to be logged, it has to be in the database, it has to be, and if you then integrate the whole thing in an cost benefit, then I fully agree. But yeah, it's good that we think about it and check what is possible and not, and then it will be a nice evaluation. Yeah.
I think it could be also a good information for the, let me say, the commercial partner of the cost, because, for example, if we notice that one sensor has the green plates for all the category, is accurate, is robust, is easy to use, is quick, etc. And unique problem, let me say, is that it is expensive. I think could be a good result that helps the factories to concentrate the effort in reducing the cost. We must not make a judgment about the price in terms of thousands of euros, but just say, okay, maybe it is cheaper than expensive. Just this kind of information, I think, can be useful for the project.
I fully agree. Yeah.
Any other question? Okay. Where we are. Okay, another point for the database. So at the end of the survey, we will be able to have a data collection based on the results of the survey questionnaire, and then the database. So when we consider the database, we must also discuss about the right and benefit, because the data belongs to us and so on. So for example, one, let me say, benefit could be the review paper. And so there are some example of review with more than 160 authors, where of course there are some authors that prepared the review, but all the co-author contributes to database and edited the manuscript. So that can be an advantage. Let me say, I'm very practical in this. So can be an advantage for all of us, sharing and taking care about the database. Also, the quality of the data shared within the database. So not just one number, but a group of number, good quality data. So this helps us to summarize and to try to make some relationship. Be careful about these deliverables. So a submitted review paper of how different fruit tree crops performs and respond under drought stress, because the delivery date is at month 18. So maybe we must start to think about this review paper, just summarizing the information on the literature. Maybe we can divide the review species by species, and so some of us can be responsible of a paragraph dedicated, for example, to olive, dedicated to grapevine. I don't know, but I'm just put on the table this information. And then I don't know, Kathy, do you have any other question, or the? No, okay.
Nope.
The end was right.
No. Sorry.
No. And so the last point is about the active participation within this working group. So I introduced you already the co-leader, so Joaquin Belvert. At the moment, I take the leadership of the 1.1, so the physiological variables linked to the water status. But if anybody is available for leading this task, please, we can open at your availability. The task 1.2 will be led by Antonio Diaz. The 3 about remote sensing will be led by Joaquin again. And now the task 4 is about to explore protocols to integrate data from plant sensor into remote sensing application. And so if anybody is available or want to volunteer to lead this task, please let me know your availability, as well as the task 1.5 about the protocols. Okay, I left these 2 tasks empty just because they will start late, and so we have more time to decide the leadership of this task. As core group, we decided to have the task leadership not mandatory, so we can decide to have or not. But since the amount of people involved in this WG, maybe it would be better to have something that organized the work, just to make the coordination, not to make the leadership. And of course, another position, a mandatory position, so we must decide about this, is the communication and dissemination responsible of the working group 1. This will be part of the group of the dissemination within the course and will be the trade union between what we do and what can be communicated and disseminated within the project. So also in this case, please let me know volunteers for this rule. So people that are so familiar with social, that are active and so on. About the things to do, so the activity, I think, but this is just suggestion, some activity to perform in the future, in next future will be the survey questionnaire, of course, the dataset, the elaboration and the discussion, the review on plant behavior, the scouting of proximal and remote sensors, the special issue on proximal and remote sensors, and other things we will decide. This is just my a program I tried to describe considering this working group. And good job, everyone, and please write me and Joaquin and the other people if you have any suggestions. Do. Brunella?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something about the review. Actually, we also have the possibility to write special issue, to be ambitious, and so if we find, you know, the good conditions, enough data, we can even think about 1 review per species. Per each of the 6 species we will focus on. So we have this possibility. We have already invitations from several journals, and in particular with one, which is Scienza Horticolture, and the idea is to also try to prepare this special issue So we'll see also how to organize that based on the, critical mass of, data and work that will be done in the different working groups. And this is the first thing I wanted to say. And the second is that regarding the list of, things to do that Pasquale showed in the last slide, you are welcome to invite your, PhD students, postdocs, or young people, or yourself, to candidate for the short-term scientific missions, which are open now. So the calls are open and available. And the idea is to, send, people, PhD students, postdocs in another lab from the COST, within the COST community, the FruitCREW community, and also to carry out part of this work. So you can, if you have maybe a candidate, you can, for example, think about a group, a lab that you know, and get contacts and say, okay, I can send this person to your lab to carry out the certain part of the work. You can also write the WG leader and co-leader, task leader to maybe, organize that. So yeah, the calls are opened now. And yeah, the idea is to organize these exchanges in the next months. So let's say by the end of the, not the end of the year, but the summer, the end of the summer.
Yes, thank you, Brunella, for adding this information. Riccardo.
Yes, just it's probably a stupid question. Do we have access to a list of all the participants in this working group? Probably it's just me. I don't know where to look for that.
Well, the eCost portal is still a mystery for me, I have to admit, because it has many functions, and I still don't know what I am allowed to do or not to do. So I don't have the slightest idea whether you can access these databases from the COST portal. Theoretically, yes, but I'm not sure. But maybe if you agree, if that is not possible, from the official side, we can think about developing, a list of people. At this stage, actually, things are really evolving very quickly, because there are like 1 or 2 persons every day that are adding up, so maybe we wait a few weeks, and then I can share maybe a list of all the participants in the different WGs so that we know each other, but it's a long list anyway.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. So the other, I see another hand raised. Please.
Yeah, I just want to make clear that you can actually see the MC participants, not really the whole volunteers, but you can at least see the list of MC participants in the eCost platform. I just want to clarify that.
Maybe one thing we can do, if you agree, is whenever we will have a website, that's going to happen in the next few months, or hopefully 1 or 2 months, we might foresee, the participants list in each working group. That can be a possibility. Of course, if the people agree on that, they need to agree.
Okay. Any other questions, suggestions, or Alessio? Please.
Yeah. Hi, Pasquale. Hello, everyone. So my question is about data storage. So what do we do with all the data, including the videos of the recording we are doing now? What do we do with all the data so that we can always, have access whenever we want to the data we generate with this project? Do we have a cloud or some system that the European Union provides with a construction? Or?
Go, Brunella.
you just leave me the difficult questions. No, Alessio, that's
no about the data set. I don't know. Maybe the data set is the easier, but please
no,
go.
we are figuring that out. It means like the cost action does not provide a server or a storage, let's say, server where we can store all this data. We were thinking to implement it within the structure of the website, either considering the possibility to use a server from the University of Bologna. So we are figuring that out, whether to buy it or to use resources that are already available from our university. That's the idea, but we are still figuring out the best option.
Yeah, so there is no requirement from the European Union in terms of like safety around data, like IP protection, kind of things like that.
No,
intellectual property.
The idea actually would be to make the database available after a period of embargo where we need to work on it as FruitCREW, so to make it available, but to at least to the people participating to the project.
Yes.
But then, yeah, that's more or less the idea. So to make it available, to share it within the FruitCREW's community, let's say. But yeah, for the details regarding the safety, I'm not able to answer you yet.
That's okay. We'll find out.
Okay. Any other questions or suggestions? Okay, so I think the meeting was very, very fruitful and full of suggestions, and so this is good. The good step to start, because we are sharing ideas, and at the end, the preliminary idea was evolved, improved too much. So thank you very much to all and for your proactivity, and so stay in touch for the survey questionnaire that we will implement, and then from the other part of the project. And please tell me your availability for the leadership of the other role, the key roles within the group. And thank you very much, everybody, to share your time and your ideas with us. That's it for me. See you in the next meeting. And okay, see you then. Bye bye to all.
Thank you.
And
Bye bye.
Thank you all. Thanks a
Bye.
lot. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very
Bye,
much.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you.